Hey guys, welcome back to the CorpFit YouTube channel. I'm Esther, a corporate coach.
And I'm Demi, corporate coach also.
Today we're going to be bringing you first year uni tips. I know some of you have questions and we're here to answer them just to help you out as you're starting university on your journey.
Okay guys, so first year uni tips that every fresher needs to know going into university. So starting off right now, Esther, what do we have for tip number one?
We're going to talk about budgeting, guys.
Okay, so budgeting, why is this important? Well, as you may know already, I'm sure it's that time of the year your student finances entered your bank accounts. You know, this might in some cases be some of the largest amounts of money you've seen at this tender age. So from my experience, guys, don't get too excited. Learning to budget your money and budget your finances is something that you should really pick up when you're in first year. I suggest that you allocate different amounts of money for different things. So as a student, you're going to have to obviously feed yourself. You may need to travel to some of your university lectures, and of course you're gonna party, you're gonna enjoy the nights out, you might wanna buy a fine babe a drink. So at the end of the day, you need to ensure that you're managing your finances very well. Esther, what other thoughts do you have on that topic?
I completely agree, especially on the nights out. I think she might be a fine babe, but you don't have to spend all your money on her on that night out. Like, know what you need to spend monthly, weekly, and then you know when you go out how much you can really spend and know your limits. I think a lot of students find that when it gets towards the end of the term, they really run out of the cash, and you need to spread it out. You need to separate it so that it lasts to the very end of the month. It's better to have some left over than to run out early. It's stressful, you know.
Exactly.
Indomie, like you can't eat it every day, so I think don't get to that point.
And on that point specifically, to aid you in your budget, I would suggest that you use your family, your friends, as much as possible when you go to university. So from my own experience, as soon as I got to university, my fridge was packed with jollof rice, all sorts of African food. And for that reason, I didn't have to immediately start cooking, spending on food. And I think that really helped me out in terms of my finances. In the end, I was able to just kind of stretch my student finance after I paid my accommodation, do like a few small side jobs, and still have a good experience in my first year. How did you go about it?
I think getting a few token recipes is always a way to go. Like, I feel like if you ask anybody that's been to university, they'll tell you they learned how to make spaghetti bolognese when they were there or something, because it's like, it might be easy to make, but it saves you a lot of money. And also keeping on top of everything, like don't let yourself get carried away. Don't leave your dishes, don't leave your bed untidy. It just having a clean space, make sure you're organized, you go to lectures, you cook when you need to cook, and then you save money in the long run, really and truly.
Exactly. And I mean, for the guys that are looking to build muscle, maybe you've started to watch some of the fitness videos on the channel. Like my go-to was tuna pasta. You know, I got tons and tons of tuna. Something that's extremely cheap, quick and efficient to make. You can just prepare your meal prep for the week, hit the gym, and then at least you know you've got a high protein meal to fall back on. And I think that's a really good idea. So that was tip number one, budget your money well. Try and implement some sort of savings plan. Definitely utilize a lot of these new mobile banking apps. Very few of them were around at the time that I went to university, which was 5 years ago now, getting old. But yeah, you know, if you can structure and balance your finances, I find that you're going to be a lot less stressed and you can actually maximize university and enjoy it for what it has to offer. So that was tip number one.
So obviously you're talking about budgeting and you were driving in university. So what would you say to the people that drive in university or want to drive in terms of budgeting?
In my opinion, guys, driving's a tough one. You know, if you've been driving through sixth form, you've become accustomed to, you know, having that freedom, having that ability to go where you want, and you might not want to go straight back to public transport. My advice is only drive if you must. If you go to a campus university, the chances are you don't need to in your first year. And that's what I did. So I left my car in London for the first year, utilized the bus. I think that helped with actually networking with a lot of other students that were traveling that way. So yeah, that's my piece of advice. By the time I got to second year and I lived off of campus, that's when I brought my car up to uni, and I felt like it was essential. Do you know what I mean? It kind of enabled me to, you know, go to different cities, visit friends, and of course I was just more efficient in my days. Like I was able to go to my university lecture, head back home, maybe go to the gym just before a seminar, and then get back on campus. So that's my advice, but at the end of the day, you know, do whatever suits you best.
Great advice.
Yeah. Okay guys, so tip number two is going to be nights out. How are you going to enable that you structure and balance your nightlife at university with actually being a university student? So coming from my own experience, I was someone that definitely came into university, wanted to be the life of the party. I feel like that's where I got a bit of buzz around my nickname, DS9. And I don't have any regrets personally. However, in hindsight, I definitely did miss a lot of key things in my academic side of the degree. And that was oftentimes just due to missing a 9 a.m. lecture or having a sense of complacency because I was going out quite a bit. So in my opinion, I do encourage students to kind of set themselves a limit on nights out. Don't overdo it. But at the same time, you're only going to be a university student once, and you only be a first year student once. So try and have fun, especially if your degree doesn't count. So I studied engineering. My first year didn't count. However, I did know that I wanted to apply to internships and get my career going from an early stage. So I still got my head down, managed to get first class despite having an intense nightlife. But yeah, that's my advice really. How about yourself, Esther?
I agree. I think if you know you have a 5 a.m, there's no reason for you to get home at 6 a.m. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I think if you have a 9 a.m, there's no reason for you to get home at 6 a.m. And if you're going to get home at 6 a.m, you don't need to be off your head. So I think having the limits, like go out, enjoy yourself, but know what time you need to go to bed in order to wake up. Don't deceive yourself saying, yeah, I'll get home and go to the lecture. You're not going to go. So that's definitely an important tip. Also, when you're out, kind of just conduct yourself the way you want to conduct yourself. If you know that if you take too many drinks, you might behave differently and you like regret your night, then don't take too many drinks, basically. I don't think I have anything else to add because I think you covered it perfectly.
Okay.
There, but that's my 2 pence.
I've got one more point actually, especially for the guys who might end up, buying shots after shots after shots. It goes back to budgeting, like try and withdraw a certain amount of money in cash from your bank account. And then, you've got a limit set. You're not going to overdo it. Look at your bank statement the next day, 2 hands on your head, and you're now eating bread, rice and milk for the rest of the week. So definitely try to reduce the amount of money that's in your current account so your card declines when you've overdone it, or just withdraw the money and just set yourself a tough spending limit. So that was tip number 2. It was on nightlife and how to manage that. So into the next one.
Okay guys, so tip number 3 is managing your workload. So I think this is very important because you're at uni to get a degree in the first place. So I think the most important thing is organization. I think if you know you have this much to do, whether you have like a whiteboard, a timetable, a schedule, a to-do list, have something to manage your time and so you can see the tasks you need to do every week. So if you go out today, you probably won't have enough time to finish that essay for 2 days later. I think it's also very important if you have a very complex degree like that has a lot of moving parts. You have coursework, you have seminars, you have tutorials, you have this and that, which we both had. I think it's very important to make sure you separate it. So it's like, you've done this for this lecture, you've done this for that lecture. I had 10 modules in my first year and it counted. So I had to do these things, otherwise I was going to fall into a pit of confusion. But yeah, that's what I would say. I would just say be organized and just keep on top of your work.
Excellent. So on my end, I definitely echo what Esther has to say. Organization is key, guys. You probably know this from A-levels and IB. If you leave your work too late in the academic year, you can get extremely stressed out. You're putting yourself under immense pressure and you don't want to be in that position by the time you get to April or May, just before exam season. So I definitely advise you to kind of work through that degree in a systematic way. Structure yourself so you understand what you're doing for each lectures. And another good tip is kind of networking within the university. So I did engineering at the University of Warwick. A lot of our degree was repetitive, meaning we had senior students that had done the same lab reports as us when they were in first year. Some of them have got first classes, some of them have got high 2-1s. And if you were able to network efficiently, a lot of these guys would be very happy to just provide you with their lab report, give you those sorts of tips and tricks on how to get the highest possible grade. And in that sense, you don't have to really approach university just as a lone wolf. Like I oftentimes would work with other engineers in my engineering block. We just do our work together. So I think collaboration is another very good point when it comes to managing your workload, and it even feeds into applications. Like I still remember doing numerical tests for certain applications and jobs, and I would be sitting my test with 4 other guys around me. And don't get twisted, right? You might think that it's not ethical or something like that, but this happens all of the time. If you can collaborate, combine minds, that's really the real key of university. It's not just an individual feat. a lot of the people that you meet will, you know, work in the same industry as you when you graduate, be a lifelong friend. So try to collaborate and stay focused.
I agree. Just to echo that, so I went Warwick as well, and I did Morse, and I found someone 2 years above me that had a zip folder of like all his like work and everything, all his lecture notes for like the past 2 years. And there was modules that I was about to take, and I had all the notes already there. I had assignments he had done, and it just really helped. Even though it wasn't exactly the same assignments, I had solutions to problems that I would have never solved by myself. So yeah, just to echo that, I think that's a very important tip. Networking is a key part of uni as well. That was tip 3, guys. Managing your workload and making sure you're staying on top of your work.
Okay, so we are 3 tips into the video right now. And for tip number 4, very important one, is how you manage your social life, how you pick your friends, and ultimately how to conduct yourself. So at university, you're going to meet a wide array of people. Some of us, like myself, for example, I went to an all-boys school from year 7 to 11. Obviously, it became mixed in 6th form, and I was basically in the Greater London area. By the time I got to university, I was now meeting people from Manchester, Liverpool, Birmingham, different accents, different cultures. And I think this presents a very good opportunity for you. If you manage university correctly, you can actually get to know different cultures, go to a number of societies. So my piece of advice is don't go to university with the same sort of mindset you may have had in secondary, primary education. Definitely go there, be keen to know and understand the different walks of life other people may have taken to get to the same degree. Network with international students, and really just try to put yourself out there. So that's my number 1 tip on managing friends. How about yourself?
I would say make sure you keep your old friends. So obviously you're in a new university, but you have friends you've grown up with, and sometimes it's really important to lean on them when you need them. So obviously, make new friends, have fun, but also don't forget the people that, really have your back. Because remember, you've just got to uni, like you literally have known these people for 5 minutes. But on top of that, the people you do meet, invest in the friendships, don't make it superficial. Find people that maybe like yourself, or people that you would, be friends with back home. Don't just be friends with anybody just because you're in university or maybe you're alone, because long-lasting friendships and people close by that you can lean on is very important, especially as you go through university and things start to get tough, and they will.
Absolutely. And the truth is, right, your friends aren't limited to just your year group when you come in as a fresher. A lot of times I found, especially when I got to Warwick, I was able to find a lot of sort of mentors in the university that pulled me aside in my first week and were like, listen, this is a complex university. Do you know what I'm saying? You need to avoid certain things. You need to conduct yourself a certain way. If you want to achieve this for your career, here's what I advise. Maybe send your applications early. And this kind of leads into everything. It could lead into girls' advice. It can lead into relationship advice. So don't just look into your own year group. Try and really get yourself out there with the older students, because they've been there, and they can give you honest advice that can really help you in your degree.
I would just add, and I think this kind of leads into our next tip as well, but just make sure no one pressures you to do anything. It's like very easy to get caught up in things when you have new friends and a group of people doing stuff. If you're not comfortable with doing anything, you don't want to drink as much as them, just do you. Like, don't let your friendship, the pressure of forming friends, make you go and do things outside of your comfort zone that you're not comfortable with.
Absolutely. Very good point.
And I think that leads nicely into tip number 5, which is be yourself.
Okay, so why is it important to be yourself? Well, first of all, and kudos to the University of Warwick for this. When you go to university, there's a number of ways that you can really immerse yourself into your interests and passions. A lot more so than when you're in secondary school, in my opinion. If you like basketball, of course, there's going to be a team for that. You might like a weird and wacky thing that, maybe you've struggled to find like-minded people for in your own local town or city. But by the time you get to the university, I promise you, you will be able to meet people that may have studied overseas that share the same interest as you, or may have been in Manchester while you were in London. And, when you're being yourself and actively leaning into your edges, I think that's where you see the most success. So speaking from my own experience, going into university, I always knew that I was quite passionate about Africa, and very early I had an opportunity to join the Warwick Africa Summit. So this was a brand new society at the University of Warwick. I remember being approached by the founder, who's still a good friend of mine today, and he said, hey, do you and your friend want to be a freshers rep? So I was like, sure, what does that role entail? Didn't really know what I was going to get myself into, but the time I was in second year, I then had become the head of finance for the entire Warwick Africa Summit. And in the end, myself, my finance team, and actually one of the freshers reps that I joined with ended up raising around £30,000. So we smashed the record. We raised one of the highest amounts of money that any society had done in our second year. And this led very nicely into my internships. It was something that I could always speak about quite positively when I was working on an internship or speaking to an interviewer, and that all came from me just being myself, saying yes to those opportunities, and seeing where it could take me. So absolutely recommend that you be yourself, go to those societies, and then it also kind of feeds into your social life, right? If you were never like a heavy drinker or someone that was into drugs or something like that, before you got to university, try to avoid peer pressure. You don't have to be a sheep in a herd, you know. Don't be scared to lead. Don't be scared to just, you know, be yourself. Not everyone may like it, but at the end of the day, you're there for yourself. You're there for your own investment into your future life. So those are my top tips.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. I think that it's very important, like you said, to be yourself. As he said, you saw how him being himself and diving into his interests, especially with Africa, led him to have opportunities that he wouldn't otherwise have had. So when we say be yourself, it's not just about being comfortable and like, just be yourself, everyone can say that, but actually go for the things you want to do. Actually dive into your interests, whether it's music, whether it's basketball, whatever it is, there's gonna be things you can do in university to help you explore your interests. And that brings us to our last tip number 6. Enjoy first year. Enjoy it. Like, this is university. It's kind of a once in a lifetime experience, because you could go again later in life, but this is when everyone's there for the first time. Everyone's just fresh out of their house, basically. It's the first time you get that taste of freedom. So definitely enjoy it, make the most of it, do things you want to do, don't do things you don't want to do, and yeah, just kind of live in it and enjoy the moment as well. Even though you're going through all these tips and you're making sure that life is patterned, make sure you don't overthink things, just enjoy it.
Exactly. At the end of the day, right, it's your learning experience. You've been through year 7, you've been through your final year of secondary school, you've learned a lot, you're gonna make mistakes, you're gonna learn from them, so don't overthink it, guys. Like, just enjoy the process, go in with a plan and smash it. Those are the top tips. I don't have anything else to add, but I hope you've enjoyed the video, you found it valuable. Thank you again to Esther, aka It's Intricate, joining me for this video. If you want to follow her, all of her socials will be down below in the description. And stay posted. We've got a lot more content coming. Let us know what you want to see, and thank you once again.
And don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, guys. You already know you're supposed to do this, but I'm going to remind you regardless. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and we'll see you next time.